Hi, I'm Dr. Dubitsky, and this is our podcast of Birds, Bees, and Beyond with my co-host Caro, and we discuss interesting questions about sex and sexuality. What I think about the podcast is that we're not having, in this society, we're not having enough conversations about sex and sexuality and the changes that have taken place, and especially since my generation, the boomers. We have a guest with us today, Brittney Lampkin. She's a student in my sex ed class at Florida International University.
Thank you, Dr. Sora. My name is Scotto, and I am a student at Florida International University, and I'm currently studying psychology. And today we wanted to talk about why Gen Z isn't having children. And today we brought in me, as always, the Gen Zer, and then we have a guest star, Brittany, which is a millennial, so we can have both perspectives on how society has changed in the past couple years now. So without further ado, Brittany, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Brittany, like they said, I am a psych major at FIU.
I was wondering what you guys are currently studying in Dr. Soar's sex education class that I happen to take in a summer semester with her. That's how we met. So I wanted to know about your perspective now.
STDs and STIs. That was what we were talking about that day. Like you said, I'm a millennial. And I'm 36. Next week I'll be 37. Team
Mm.
Aries. But yeah,
Thank you, Brittany, for telling us about what's going on in Dr. Soar's class. I actually really, really like the part where we start learning about STIs and STDs. I think it's a really important chapter and nonetheless one that everyone should know about. We actually have a video from a couple weeks back about STIs and STDs if you haven't checked it out yet for everyone, including you, Brittany. But without further ado, Dr. Soar, if you want to introduce our topic for today.
For the past 2 or 3 years, this topic has come up in the general media and the news that Gen Z is not having enough babies to replace or to populate the different municipalities. That's a global term. Some cities, countries, they start losing their tax base if enough babies aren't being born. So, the general question is why are young people, and originally I thought about Gen Z, but it's actually millennials are facing the same kinds of decision making about having children or not having children. And the question is why? And I spotted an article in a paper called The Guardian, and the headline was Many US adults are skipping parenting or having fewer kids, and it's forcing schools to close. So we're in this era of flux where those rules that my generation played by, that you grow up, you get married, you have kids, you die. Sounds morbid. There's a term called normativity, and that's the belief that everybody needs to be romantically involved. That coupling is the norm, but that no longer is the norm, and yet people are holding on to it and saying, "What's wrong with the younger people? They're not getting married, or they're not having children." And that's because things have changed.
just listening to the radio this morning, it was crazy. I was like, what? That's what I'm going to kind of talk about today. So I was listening to, I don't know if anybody listens to The Breakfast Club.
I've heard of it. I don't, if I could get it, I would listen to it. I love Charlemagne the God, right? That's who
Right.
hosts it. Yeah. Okay. I love
I know
him.
the movie The Breakfast Club, but not the radio
Oh,
station.
I know the
Yeah.
movie is him, but the radio, they were doing a study. They were discussing the study where that are married or in committed relationships, they don't want to live together anymore. They rather live separate, but still be in a monogamous
That's interesting.
relationship. And I was like,
Hmm.
the new norm because even my cousin, like, her and her husband, they're separated, but they're trying to work it out. But she's saying, I just want to live by myself. Like, I like this separation, but I want to still be with him. So I'm like, okay. Like, it's different. It's like, it's not normal because I grew up in the home with my mom and dad, but they were married for years. Like,
No, that was the norm. And now it's funny, even at my age, people around me who are my generation, they keep asking, don't you want to meet somebody? Don't you want to have a boyfriend? Because I'm a widow. My husband died about 7 years ago. And don't you want to be in a relationship? Like, no. How about you, Cara? Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I would say that I've had multiple thoughts honestly about this, and it's funny because my brother's actually 27, so he's right now like kind of in that spot, I guess, with a little bit of pressure of like, oh, like when are you gonna get married? When are you gonna move out? When are you gonna have kids? It's another thing too that I've noticed, at least in Miami, it's more often here that
Mm.
people will move out at much later ages because of the high rent cost, which yet. But my biggest reason as to why I think that this generation currently, meaning me, Gen Z, and millennials, are not having children is because of how expensive it is to live.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm.
if I can't take care of myself, if I can't even move out right now, how am I supposed to maintain a whole other life? That's my perspective. And so that's why I think that back then things were a lot simpler. Owning a house, having the certain materials, which when I was in your class, I remember you asking us what were the things that we needed to have a child or to have a happy relationship. A lot of the times you need a lot of things to sustain something healthy, such as like a marriage or a good committed relationship, love, patience, money. Especially money, just because of the fact that health costs money, you know, in every aspect, especially in the United States. So in that case, you have to be really, really careful with the decisions that you make, which is why we have a video on contraception as well.
Yes.
Um, and make good decisions because if not, you're
Right.
gonna have to pay for them.
There seems to be this conflict. um, More women are going or are being influenced to go off a hormonal birth control, which hormonal birth control is one of the reasons that the world has changed. And I say, I do talk about that in the classes before hormonal birth control. The average woman uh, was having 3.7 children. After hormonal birth control, that figure went down to 2.2 children. And then now, and that was like the 1970s, then it went down to 2.2. And now in the 2020s, the average woman is having 1.6 children, and 1.6 is below the replacement level. Birth control is a primary factor.
I was definitely on birth control when I first had my daughter, but it changed my body so much that I was like, no. Like no matter how much diet or exercise I did, I had to come off of that because I wasn't happy with the way I was looking. So I kind of sacrificed the the protection of not having kids for that reason, but it's definitely a big decision because I have one, and like Carolina was saying about the expenses, it costs too much. It's not like back in the day, like my grandma, both on my mom and dad's side, they have 9 and 10 kids. I have
Wow.
That's the same thing for my mother's parents. Like my mom has multiple cousins and my uncle has multiple cousins. And I'm just like, how did all these babies come? Like, where did all
because
these
all of
babies
them were
come from?
having so many kids. But then
Yeah.
like the next generation, like my mom's sisters and brothers, like they had about the same many, about 4 and 5. And then same with my dad, like they had like 4 and 5, not 9 and 10. And then it got less, like me and my brothers, except for my little brother who's Gen Z, because he's 10 years younger than me, he has none. But me, I have one, and my sister and brother, they have two each. And it's like that with my cousins as well, that's in the same generation with my mom. Their kids, our kids we're having two. And like, no, we're good. It's stopping there.
How old was your daughter? Was this an intended pregnancy or non-intended? And do you have a partner? What's the social support network around having her? Because that's it. Because if you're gonna have a kid, you need to have that social support.
My daughter just turned 12. I had her when I was
Wow.
24. Uh,
Wow.
I'm a single parent. I've been a single parent since I had her. It didn't work out, unfortunately. my main support is my dad. It sounds weird. I kind of don't know if I should say this, but I'm saying he says he calls me his baby mama all the time because he helps with my daughter so much. He's like, "Where's
Wow,
my baby?"
that's great. Social support. That's what you need.
Yes. So that's what I do. Like, and that's a big thing. Like you said, having that support back then. That I know my mom tells me stories all the time about how she would be. She wasn't with my grandma all the time because my grandma would be at work. So she was with her cousins and at their mom's house and everywhere else but home. So like that support system is important. And I
Do you think people your age are have few opportunities to meet potential partner face to face, or does social media make meeting people easier or harder?
I it's easy for me to meet people in person. I don't do the whole social media thing so
Mm.
heavily because you don't know what you're gonna get. It's hard. Like I had a bad experience with my aunt long time ago, like when internet dating first started, like not like what we have now, but the chat rooms and stuff back in the day, like in the 90s. And she met a guy, he moved in with her and it was horrible. He was like a horrible, horrible guy.
Oh
So
no.
that always stuck in my head. I'm like, no, you can't meet people on the internet.
And where do you really like meet people like now? Like is it like in your workplace? Like do you often like go to like a hobby that you have and meet people there? Or how is it that you find yourself? And this doesn't have to be like romantic interest, you know, I don't know how open you are to a relationship right now, especially having a daughter. But in the case of just meeting people in general, like do you think that technology has influenced the people around you so much as to where it limits the chance of you meeting people?
I do go to events that I see advertised on the social media, like, oh, this. So I would say that it helps a little because I wouldn't know about it unless I was on social media. That's how I meet people.
Okay. Okay, I see what you mean. I guess from my perspective, I do actually some work on social media because I do photography as well. So a lot of the social media that I consist of is like speaking to clients sometimes. But don't get me wrong, I do have like, you know, my main social media page where like I have my friends and my connections from like elementary school even. Kind of just like how like older generations use Facebook and they're like, oh my God, like I need this girl from high school. In my case, like I think the app that I use the most is Instagram and a lot of social settings. I mean, I go to school at FIU. Sometimes like I'll be taking the bus to the BBC campus and I'll be looking around and 90% of the people on this bus are on their phone, like just glued to their phone completely. No social
Right.
interaction, complete silence sometimes. And honestly, even though I'm a part of this generation, I don't think I'm a good representation of it just because I value deep connection and personal conversation so much more than a text or a phone call. And
Yeah, that's
it's honestly
rare.
sad. It's honestly so sad to see at least the people around me and like even their screen times. Like because you know now your phone tells you like how long you've been on your phone,
Right.
the fact of boredom. Because a lot of the time, people go on their phone because they're bored. They have nothing else to do. So they're like, oh, I just have this. This entertains me. It has a bunch of things for me to do. Let me go on it.
Do
Yeah.
either of you, do you feel that people your age are comfortable approaching someone in person? You said you are comfortable meeting people. So is it comfortable, meeting somebody in person, or do you need to go through the phones if that's where your interaction is, or is it better to meet, is it easier to meet people in person?
I would say that other people are definitely more comfortable with the phones. I've been places and then received messages like, "Hey, I saw you the other night. Like, why didn't you say anything to me?" So, like, I now see that those kind of connections like more often than I think I should because I'm like, well, if you saw me and then you took the time to go see if you could see my Instagram or whatever, why not have just approached me at the location we were at? But yeah, they're definitely more comfortable on their phones.
It's the same for me. Like sometimes I go to public places and like I see someone I know and I try to make like eye contact with them so I can approach them. Because the thing that helps me too a lot is that I'm very extroverted, but they'll just like look down at their phone. or like pretend like they didn't see me or hear me. And even sometimes when I communicate with certain people, they lack social skills like entirely. Like it's really sad and kind of surprising. I see it the most in people who are slightly younger than me. Like I'm 20 years old right now. So people who are just getting out of high school, maybe like 17, 18-year olds,
Yeah.
they'll talk to me or I'll talk to them and I'll notice like them stuttering, them looking around, like being kind of like awkward
Wow.
with the way they speak.
Yeah. And especially Brittany, since your daughter's 12, how has the availability of pornography affected social interactions? And then for your daughter, can you keep her away from pornographic sites?
It's hard. I don't think you can fully keep them away from that. Like even with all the blocks or whatever, there's a way. There's always a way.
The availability of porn has changed the way people your age see sex?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel like I grew up in the generation that like maybe you're a little earlier on, but I do remember like the first time I ever saw pornography, it was actually because a friend showed it to me and I was like very just curious because like kids are sponges, like they see something they don't know and they're like I want to know all about it. So it definitely influenced the way that I saw sex, but I'm gonna say something that surprises the both of you, I think, which may sound a little off, but in a way, without pornography, I feel like people wouldn't know what sex is like at all. And mind you, you two have completely different perspectives on your first times and in general, just, entering the sex world. But in my perspective, at least, I think that in a way, porn can be both helpful and harmful because in one perspective, at least I know an idea of what it's supposed to look like. And in another perspective, I know that it's an exaggerated version of what sex is supposed to look like. So all the moaning, all of the unnecessary pain involved, not everyone likes that, like
Right.
realistically. But that's
And
what they want to show because it's something that isn't necessarily normal. Say like reality TV. Reality TV is not reality. It's
Oh, right.
dramatic.
right.
Don't get me started,
It's
please.
so dramatic. It's
Yeah.
And
so out there.
now that porn is exaggerated, but when you first watched it, you had no idea. Like that's an
Exactly.
exaggeration.
Exactly.
So
I
What
think
I
that,
hate about porn
yeah,
is that well, it's exaggerated. Every like male members are bigger than typical male members, or breasts are bigger, so there's an exaggeration of the body, that it rarely shows sex as something that is intimate or tender or loving, or shared connectivity. That's transcendence, where you have where it's almost a mystical experience to become one flesh. Porn does not show that. Have either of you used dating apps?
I have used dating apps, but they have not lasted me more than a week.
I can
I'm
kind of
on it for
say
one
the
week, and
same.
just because I try it, just because someone tells me, oh, give it a shot, whatever, because, you know, every once in a while we get a little desperate. At least the Gen Zers get a little desperate because nobody talks anymore. Nobody looks around anymore. It's so superficial to me, and it's just so not me. Like, I think that meeting someone in person and just having like an ultimately like having a connection with someone that you can't put a price on that. But I can say, which I have mentioned before, that my mother, who is 48 years
Oh,
old,
right.
my
I'm sorry.
48-year-old mother, she met her husband on a dating app. And they
That's
have been
funny.
together for, I think, 3 to 4 years by now. And she's never been happier. This is her third marriage, and she has never been happier.
All right. What?
I've tried it before out of boredom and a little peer pressure because even though I meet people, usually I'm like meeting regular friends, not too many guys where I could like, oh, okay, like let's maybe this could be something. So I've tried the site before, and like she said, like a week goes by, and I'm like, nah, this is not for me. It doesn't feel right.
What is your experience meeting men, either millennial men or Gen Z men?
They're not like my dad. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom forever. And these guys are not like that. I know the economy is way different and that's hard to do. But I mean, even as far as like paying for dates and stuff like it's like, oh, you wanna split this? It's like, oh,
Oh,
okay.
wow. Okay.
Not everybody, but a lot of them.
I would say that you get a mix of everything every once in a while, at least me. I feel
Mm.
like I've been on a lot of dates, and I've met many different kinds of people, but all in all, I would say the biggest thing I see is a lack of maturity. I don't see something like a one common trait in all men.
Men want different things out of a relationship, or are they even looking for relationships? Do men and women want the same thing out of relationship or different?
I would say that it varies, but most of the time I do see that there's a lack of commitment as well on both ends. Even on my end, sometimes, like I meet someone and I'm like, I don't know if I want to commit just yet. And I think it's a good thing. I think I hold some high standards for myself personally, but I would say that on both ends, yes, like it's kind of hard to commit, I would say, because you want to fill in all the gaps and like sometimes you see something from someone and you're like, I don't really like that. I don't know if I can push that aside.
I agree with Carolina a lot. The only thing I would probably add, like circumstance. Like sometimes, like there was a point where I was like earlier, like when my daughter was way younger, and I'm like, and I was kind of in what you would say a committed relationship, but because I felt like I didn't have enough time, I didn't want to fully commit. I was like, let's just keep this casual because, like like I said, circumstance, when you have another person with you, it's harder to bring someone in, and it makes it scary. Probably not for everybody, of course, but it just depends on your circumstance.
I mean, in my mom's case, I was maybe 15 when she met her current husband. But I don't think she was necessarily afraid, I would say. I feel like I've always been like a really stubborn, but like yet very independent young woman. So I think that she was like, she got it covered. And then my brother, he's 8 years older than me. So like, he's like a whole man. Um,
Right.
and so in my mom's case, I think the thing with her was that he also has kids. So he has a daughter who's turning 18, and then his younger son is now 13. So his son was kind of put into the role of a stepson for my mom. So my mom kind of played the stepmother role for him just because she would like taking care of him a lot and like she likes bonding with him in general even though they're not like related from blood. And so I do think that in that case, like it is different when you're talking to someone and they have a child. I think especially in the case of when a man has a child, because us women, at least most of us, are very internally maternal, without even realizing, I would say. I think even me,
Oh,
like being
that's
a
it.
20
That's
year old,
interesting.
I think like and I'm not even too into the idea of having kids as a Gen Zer. But I feel like if I had to be in the position of being maternal, I would do very well at it because I'm a woman and it's just something that comes naturally. But when it comes to a woman having a child, dating a man, I feel like it's rarely common for the man to take like that stepfather role unless there's an absent father and the mother is like very very connected to her child and really wants to bring their child into the relationship. That's my perspective.
Is dating easier or harder for young people today than it was in previous generations? And Brittany, you mentioned something about the men asking you to
Oh yeah.
contribute, you know. It's like my generation, all of this was expected, like I say a lot, the norm was you're engaged, maybe 19 or 20, you're engaged, you get married a year later, and then a year later you start having babies.
A lot of stuff that would used to be expected, like, oh, we'll probably date this long, and then by this, like you said, by this age we're married and stuff. I think it's probably easier in that circumstance because a lot of stuff isn't expected now. You're not expecting a ring. You're not expecting to have a kid
Right,
and
you're
all
not
this other
expecting
stuff.
it, right?
I say that it's easier because there's less rules. Like,
Mm,
I think that we kind of make our own rules now. We kind of just see fit for our expectations and our lifestyles. Me, for example, I'm a very busy person, so if I were to be in a relationship with someone, I would need someone to understand that I need time for myself as well as needing time for my duties.
mhm,
And then obviously, in a relationship, you make time for your partner. But you also make time for your friends, I think. I think that's like a really big thing for me, like prioritizing time for everyone in your life who you love and not
mhm.
just like completely, attending to your partner because like there's other people who love you, your friends, your family, your pets. Yeah, I would say it's better now, that we have a little more liberty in our choices. Back then there was a lot more of a standard, like how you guys mentioned, dating, marrying, having kids. I can't imagine like being in that time and thinking like, what if I don't want kids? Like, I'm gonna let everyone down. I mean, even now, my mom being the age that she is, of course, she's like, oh, I want you to give me 5 kids, like 5 grandkids. And I'm like, I don't know about that one. I don't even know about one or two, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I never had kids, and there was a concern about that if there was something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. It was a deliberate choice.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I like to remember that I have a friend and he's around your age, Brittany, and he's told me before like he doesn't have any kids and he always tells me like, hey, just remember like having kids is a choice. It's not like a demand. So, it's the truth, it's a choice and I know it's very fulfilling from what I've heard from certain people to have children and be able to carry on,
Well,
your descent.
Brittany has children.
Exactly, yeah.
Has a daughter, and I'm sure that's fulfilling for you. You
It was
or
definitely a
not?
big change. No, it's
Yeah,
fulfilling.
okay.
It changed a lot. So uh I wouldn't take it back. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's what I hear from a lot of people. I even have a coworker and she's 27 right now and her daughter is I think 7 years old and she's like that's the light of my life. Like she's the reason I'm alive. And I'm like, wow, like, it's such an intense amount of love. Like I can't even imagine what that
Right.
would be like. Thank you, Brittany, for joining us today. We really liked having this conversation with you. And nonetheless, I think this conversation was really insightful and I think it's going to be very insightful for the people watching.
I just want to say thank you for having me, and I really enjoyed the conversation to talk with you guys.
I find it so interesting to keep delving into the research and just to be, I call myself an observer of culture, just to have witnessed so many changes since I was born in expectations of people. What is your life's trajectory? And I keep saying, it was you get married, you have kids and then some kind of career in there and then you die, but things have turned around. You have your career first, you go to school, you get your career, make sure you have a solid jobs, then maybe you'll have kids or maybe not. But I just want to invite everyone to watching the video to please like it, to please share. It really helps. We want to spread the word and get more people involved in these conversations about sex, sexuality, culture, and what is helping, and maybe even be some kind of a guide, to young people to acquaint them with what is happening in the world and how that affects them individually and how that affects their relationships and sexual life. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.